Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, folks.
Yep.
Where are you from?
About 45 minutes north of San Francisco,
Lovely.
California.
Part of the world.
Yep.
Been to San Francisco. What a city that is. Is that the wine region?
Yeah, we live in Sonoma County.
Okay, folks. So for those guests that have just joined us, my name is Matt. I'll be looking after you for the next hour. Each of the Celtic Park meets and hopefully some magical memories here. The only thing I want to bear in mind is there's no fire drill planned. So should the fire alarm go, it's really obvious what it is. I'll escort you nice and safely over towards the front of the superstore. Hasn't happened in 5 years, so hopefully what we could do, but I have to go through that. And the only toilet facilities are back up on the sports bar that will end the tour. Okay, so as you can see, we're actually working in the back corridor ahead of the game at the weekend. So welcome to Celtic Park, welcome to the main boardroom at Celtic Park. Real sense of history here, yeah? So I would like to find out just a wee bit about the group. I won't go around you all, but got some lovely guests from America, from the USA. I'm hearing lots of Scottish accents, so anyone who's not from Scotland or the USA or supports another team, this young man here?
England.
You're from England, whereabouts? Sorry, okay, do you have, is that Crystal Palace territory? Do you have I see you've got a Celtic kit, do you have of age? And like countless hundreds of thousands of Irish folk, he has to leave everything he knows, he has to, so anyone about 14 or 15 here? Don't be shy, I won't embarrass you. There's always one year above me at school, so I know that's not true. Yourself? No, you know.
14.
14 is perfect, so this young lad, we're Chelsea fan here, so just imagine, I guess leaving school would be a hardship, but imagine leaving your pals, your house, your hometown, everything you know, getting on a ship and sailing across to this place where they speak a different language and you're not welcome. That was the fate that befell Andrew and countless hundreds of thousands of Irish folk because of it in Gorton War, the Great Hunger. Basically, without getting too political, no food available to the ordinary Irish folk. They had to leave Ireland to survive. Quite horrendous. So it puts it in context. This was the stats. This affected real people. Anyway, Andrew came over to Glasgow. Some went to the eastern seaboard, typically the eastern seaboard of Canada, United States, which is why there's such a huge Irish diaspora in places like Boston and New York and whatever. But many also been in that west coast. Many Irish folk over there as well. Many went to the great English ports of London and Liverpool and Manchester. But thousands came here to the east end of Glasgow where we are now, including Andrew Cairns. Fast forward now to 1887, but this time Andrew is a teaching priest. He's called Brother Walfrid. He's been to Paris, he's been ordained. He's the headmaster of the local secondary school, the Sacred Heart, a stone's throw from Celtic Park. And the families, the parishes that he's looking after, they are struggling big time. There's no work, so there's no money. There's no money, so there's no food. The families are in dire straits. Andrew and some like-minded people decide to do something about that, and the wonderful thing is they use football. They use football as a vehicle to try and help alleviate the suffering, alleviate the poverty. The first great Irish club in Scotland were called Hibernian, literally men of Ireland. So clubs like Hibernian and Dundee Hearts would come down to Glasgow, they'd play a charity football match, we'd charge a penny at the gate, and that money would allow us to put food in the kids' tummies. That money would allow us to feed the families and help them out. Eventually, in 1887, Hibs won the Scottish Cup, so equivalent to the FA Cup in England. A huge moment for the Irish community in Scotland, to the extent that they hold a party for them over here in the East End at St Mary's Hall. When the suggestion's made, why don't you have your own team here? Walfrid and others say, absolutely, why don't we? I just put forward Glasgow Hibernian, but Walfrid has really been a man of some compassion, also a man of some foresight for me. He said, no, let's build a bridge between the native Scots and the immigrant Irish. I hate that word, but the immigrant Irish. And so he came up with Celtic. There's a lovely wee twist, because to his dying day, Walfrid, who's just behind my American guest here, Walfrid referred to the club as Celtic. And I'd love to know how Celtic became Celtic, but it sort of doesn't matter, because 135 years down the line, we have folk literally from all over the world coming to find out about wee much about our club. Look at this. How cool is that? Actually designed by this lady, how talented. From the western, the western seaboard of the USA, coming to find out we've got a wee Celtic fix. My wife's from down south, doesn't support Celtic. She says, I hate it when Celtic lose. Why is that? Because you're different. What do you mean? Your mood's different. I thought, he's absolutely right, because it's not just about 90 minutes in the park, isn't it? You're getting the nod there. It actually devours the whole life. And I guess it's the same for your own clubs, isn't it? Football is just incredible. It's sort of all-consuming. But what a wonderful way to start a club to try and help people that are struggling. And I think that makes us maybe just, I'm biased, I think that makes it a wee bit unique. The West Ham connection for our friend in there, because Walfrid only stayed until 1892 in Glasgow, and then he got the calling to go to the East End of London, and he carries on his good work I guess in St Anne's and Bow, so West Ham territory. And I love the idea that Celtic and West Ham are two East End clubs. I remember being at the old Upton Park, the old bowling ground. What an atmosphere in there, incredible. And the people always say that same sense of pride about their team, coming from the East End, working men, working people. And Celtic's the song. I always used to say Celtic's the reason for living there 6 days a week. I love that, that's pretty much the case. Anyway, Walfrid's first signing, Celtic's first signing is another Irishman, a guy called Willie Maley. His birthday's coming up. In fact, there's a statue going to be unveiled to Willie in his hometown of Newry next weekend, which will be pretty special. And there's a lovely story about that as well, because when Celtic went to the Maley household in December of 1887, they actually tried to sign Tom. Tom Maley was a footballer, he'd played with Hibs, he'd played with Third Lanark, big clubs of the day. Willie was more of an athlete, he's more of a runner. But anyway, when they turned up at the house, Tom was out with a girlfriend, he's out courting. Willie makes him a cup of tea, and when they're leaving, they said, tell him to come along, and you come along as well, if you like. So Willie Maley was an afterthought. Some afterthought, he stayed for 52 years, 9 as a player, and 43 as a manager. Some of these wonderful things here are all down to Willie Maley. So again, maybe for the youngsters in here, how many Celtic kits can you remember? Celtic have always played in the hoops, right? Celtic always played at home in the green and white hoops? No. Wrong. On the Celtic's first it was a plain white jersey with a Celtic cross on the right breast and a red background. And then in between then, 1889 and 1903, they played in this green and white vertical. Anyone remember that from Real Betis in Seville? And that's no accident, that's a lad from Glasgow went across to Andalusia, and they adopted the Celtic colours at times. So when Willie Maley was playing for Celtic, Willie Maley would have been playing in the stripes and not the hoops. And again, another mystery. In 1903 they changed from the stripes to the hoops, but I don't know why, but thank goodness it did. Wherever you go in the world, the hoops are recognised. But when we get married, we went to Phuket, we're honeymoon in Thailand. We literally put the bags down, went out to go for a wee drink, walked into a bar, there's a guy giving it the Shields of Bath and Rye with Celtic, and my wife just went, you're kidding. How would I know? How would I know that? So thankfully she didn't divorce me the weekend she married me, we're still together, but that just shows you. I ran a marathon in Tokyo a few years ago, there's a guy down, come on the hoops. Just like, seriously? But it's a real iconic kit. Anyway, back to Willie Maley. Anyone go to Celtic Park regularly and sing the song? Willie Maley, you going to give us a wee verse?
Wally Bailey, what's his name? I'll do it.
That's a 50-50, thank you for doing that. A couple of weeks ago, usually folk look at their shoes. A couple of weeks ago, I last year started singing. She'd never stopped for the whole tour, so we're long. I couldn't get her to stop singing. Anyway, the wonderful thing with that, so I first heard that when I was a teenager. There was only 4 verses at that time. Now there's about 12. We sing about Henrik and Fergus and whatever. But the wonderful thing is it puts the history and brings somebody so to life. So I won't sing because I've not got that man's talent. But I'm going to recite it because again we'll get some English guests in here and I think they might appreciate this. So in '38 there was a show. Glasgow was the place to go. A model of the tower, the football's prize tower. England sent 4 of the best. It didn't meet with much success. The trophy ended up in paradise. So in 1938, war is looking imminent and the morale is really low in the UK. They decide to have an Empire exhibition promoting all things Empire. Well, nearly 13 million people went to this exhibition in Bellahouston Park over a 6-month period. And this tower here, 300-foot iconic structure, was the focal point of it. They also played a football tournament in conjunction with the tournament. If you know your Glasgow geography, they played it at Bellahouston Park, which is literally across the road, which is the home of Rangers. Celtic as the Scottish champions were obviously in there in Hearts. And Celtic actually won the tournament. Celtic beat the great Sunderland side of H. Carter and co. Then he beat Hearts, who'd finished winners up in the league. And then in the final at Ibrox, over 83,000 watched Celtic beat the great Everton side of Joe Mercer and Tommy Lawton and co. The winning goal scored next to time, the guy called Johnny Crumb. He took over for John McGlory. And John scored the goal, didn't he, Jig? But a lovely twist of irony. Celtic, the team formed because of Ingorta Moore. 50 years later, they become the champions of the British Empire. Who writes these scripts? You could later. But it's also poignantly the last major trophy won by the great Willie Maley. In 1940, Willie sacked, resigned, dismissed, whatever one you want to believe. And he was replaced by James McStay. And of course, the song is they gave us James McGrory and James McStay. Paul was the sign when this song was written, but the kids don't believe it, and that's absolutely true. Anyway, that's 1938. Through the war, after the war, with a real hard time. So the time the next trophy comes along, we're not really in a good place. So coronation time was here, 53 that was a year. Apologies to my English friends. Another 4 from England met their doom. They said we'll have to try again, but like before it was in vain. The cup is in the Parkhead Stadium. Look at that, absolutely stunning and quite topical given events of recent few months. In 1953, they celebrated the coronation of the British Queen Elizabeth II. We have another football tournament. This time real heavyweights from England came up. Arsenal, Spurs, Manchester United, 3 previous English champions, plus Newcastle United, double FA Cup holders, which is a very special young goalkeeper, a guy called Ronnie Simpson, my first hero. Ronnie would later become a Lisbon Lion. Could do a tour on Ronnie on his own. Anyway, Celtic had no right to be there. They finished 8th in the league. They were invited for one reason and one reason only, money. Without the Celtic supporting the tournament, it would not have been a success. So we were invited along to make up the numbers. The big Billy McNeil, God rest him, talked about the fairy tale and the magic. We don't make up the numbers. And the fairy tale kicked off again. Celtic beat Arsenal, and then they beat Manchester United. And in the final against this wonderful Hibernian side of the famous 5, 117,000 inside Hampden. Hampden is covered in banners of green. Celtic are massive underdogs. But Neil Wilkins just signed for Celtic. He scores with a rocket and got further out every time we told the story. And then near the end, Jimmy Moss scores out second. That's Jimmy's personal mentor, you managed earlier. And Celtic yet again become the champions of Britain. Only 3 times have the top sides from England and the top sides from Scotland met competitively. Each time Celtic have won it. Quite incredible. I hope there's no 4th because we want to keep a record going. It's getting a bit more difficult. Anyway, let's move on because we'd like to talk about something else. Anyone like any footballers in the room? Any lady footballers in the room? It'll be perfect. So one of these days, I love this wee story because dreams come true. We've always talked in the past. My own wee girl played all her days and it was a real slog, but now the women's game has really taken off. It's live on Sky, there's trophies. This is the Women's Scottish Cup, and the Celtic ladies won it last year. They won it at Celtic Way. They're up against Glasgow City, who are the real powerhouse for years and years, even when my wee girl was playing. But at Tynecastle, we're a man down, we're a goal down, and we came back won the cup. I think that's a stunning trophy. Under Flynn Rose, they're chasing hard for the league. This year, Glasgow City are looking a bit strong. Celtic are looking strong for a Champions League place, which is great. So the moral is, stick in, dreams come true. You might one day be signing your contract in here with your hoops. Mum and Daddy are proud of you, and out there in front of the crowd. Dreams come true, you have to believe that. Any Kyogo fans? Yes, Kyogo's the man. So Kyogo, 2 League Cup finals in the bounce. Kyogo's to the wee man, scores twice in each of them. I guess 21 times we beat Rangers recently. That's the 21st time Celtic won the League Cup. I guess there's one maybe stands out a wee bit more than the rest. October 19th, 1957, Rangers won, Celtic 7. Sing along if you know the words, Hampden in the sun. I mean, we have a lot of fun with that. We're my Rangers guests as well when they come in as well, although I'm usually quite merciful. On that day, Celtic were underdogs that day. They won nothing for a couple of years, and 7-1. It's still the highest UK Cup final score of all time. Man City threatened it a couple of years ago and I was panicking. But to this day, Celtic captain that day, another hero of my dad's, a guy called Bobby Evans. That's Bobby's jersey. That's the day Bobby lifted it. It's his jersey the day he lifted the League Cup. Quite a special guy. Is anyone here today near Beaton and Tom Roberts played the last game for Celtic? Yes, have you stopped waiting yet? I'm still in rehab, can't get over it. Anyway, but that just shows you the power of football. It's a guy for Israel and a guy for Australia. Guys, sport athletes in the prime of their career, they're going off the park in bits because their Celtic career's finished. If we're all sitting rubbing stuff at the eye in the stands, there's no logic, is it? Like big wins. But anyway, the big thing about that day, apart from getting my heart broken, is the Celtic became the champions of Scotland for the 52nd time. The 10th time in 11 years, the 10th time succession of 3,000 the ground. Celtic are champions. And the big news, it means that wonderful music belted around the stadium in the autumn. With Real Madrid, of course, they don't tend to get easy draws. We're up against it. Results we know what it should be, but I love the fact we're going toe to toe with these superstars. The Celtic Park was once again rocking. The Champions League music. We're 9 points clear. Big game at the weekend. We're edging closer to it. If we can just do it again, get back in here, I think hopefully we're better prepared. Now this is one special for my guests from the USA, if I can. So I'm going to talk very briefly about it's the saddest day in Celtic's history. John Thompson, Celtic's goalkeeper, passed away on the 5th of September 1931. It would be at Ibrox, it would be against Rangers. John was the Celtic goalkeeper at 17, he was a Scotland goalkeeper at 18. Jimmy Gray said he was the best goalkeeper we've ever seen. I'll take Jimmy's word for it, he knew about goalkeepers. Sadly, as I say, John lost his life basically defending his goal. The summer before that, the Celtic had toured the USA and Canada, all the way from Montreal, all the way down Eastern Seaboard. They played a game against a team called Fall River from Massachusetts. The game was played in Rhode Island, and in the opposition goal was a guy called James Joe Kennedy, who was a Canadian international goalkeeper. Anyway, for the only time ever, John Thompson was a Celtic goal, Joe Kennedy was the other goal. Joe Kennedy was outstanding, and Fall River won 1-0. A few months later, John passed away. They tried a couple of goalkeepers that were on the books, it didn't really work. Somebody said, what about that big Canadian lad that was outstanding in the tour? And in a transfer that changed the world, for Joe Kennedy, within 2 weeks he had to get married, get himself across to Scotland and start a new life. Joe Kennedy then became a hero. He played over 200 games for Celtic over 8 years. He was capped for Scotland, and he would have been capped many more times, but other than somebody protested that because he was Canadian by birth he shouldn't be. There was a wee bit of jiggery pokery, and Joe only get one Kennedy. He can play for 2 countries internationally. He's a Celtic legend, all because of a sliding doors moment in the USA. So, and the reason I mentioned that one is the gift that Celtic got from the US Football Association. It's lovely. I hope my terminology is right. Native American and hotback. Wonderful, wonderful thing dating back to 1931. Okay, so let's talk about happy times. The happiest of times. Thursday the 25th of May 1967. Celtic, the team founded because of Ngorta Moore, become the champions of Europe. That is the ultimate fairy tale. The thing about that, it was masterminded by a guy called Jock Stein, the third hero. John Jock Stein, there's no Celtic connection whatsoever. He was an ordinary centre half. He played with Albion Rovers, and for some reason he was also a minor. He was working down in Clonethley in South Wales, so he was called to help Celtic in a wee injury crisis. And the world changed because Jock became the captain of Celtic. He led us to the Coronation Cup. He led us to the League Cup double. Then he went and became a manager in his own right. In 1965 he became Celtic's manager. As I say, the world changed because if Walford gave us a club to love, and Willie Maley made us the best club in the country, Jock Stein made Celtic the best side in Europe, and he done it in 2 years with pretty much the players already there. 1 or 2 signings, Joey McBride, Willie Wallace, pretty much everyone else is already there. In 1966-67 we won the Big Cup. The first year this trophy, we were Celtic were in it, it was the first year this trophy was played for because the old trophy was won for the 6th time by Real Madrid. We mentioned earlier, they're a wonderful side. And they were given the cup permanently, but not this one. It was a much smaller, different shaped trophy entirely. So the first time this trophy was played for was the first year we were in it. You can see the stars are ringing already, can't you? Anyway, we won some games. We beat Zurich, champions of Switzerland, Copenhagen away, thanks to goal. Late Tommy Gemmel's, Tommy's medals up here. Then the champions of France, F's Hogan away, thanks to the genius of Jimmy Johnson, who could do a tour on Jimmy as well. Jimmy went like a pint, Jock Stein was teetotal. That was never going to end well. But Jock Stein, for all he won, said his biggest achievement in football was keeping Jimmy Johnson in the game 5 years longer. What an incredible statement that was. Anyway, we then beat the champions of Yugoslavia, Bosnia and Novi Sad, and then the champions of Czechoslovakia, Dukla Prague. So there's only one hurdle between us and this wonderful glittering prize. But what a hurdle it is. It's Internazionale, Inter Milan, the greatest side on the planet. European and World Champions in 64, European and World Champions in 65. They've just beaten the holders Real Madrid, their own Bernabeu. They are mega favourites, but Lisbon was the ultimate fairy tale. Even the setting, it's a three-sided, the Stadio Nacional, just outside Lisbon, a three-sided Roman amphitheatre in this beautiful parkland. The Portuguese sun's beating down. There's 45,000 on the ground, 40,000 plus are wearing Celtic colours. My dad and all the others, God rest them, sold the kids, Granny, the dog, the caravan, the house, whatever it took to get themselves to Lisbon, and they came there in their thousands to see the boys become champions, and they did. Anyone love Bertie Auld? That's Bertie's kit bag for Lisbon. How cool is that? Sponsored by Adidas. There's another story behind that one as well. We'll be doing enough for today. But anyway, I think European Cup was won before the ball was kicked. You may have heard the story before. Picture the scene. We're in the tunnel waiting to go up for the biggest day of our lives. Inter Milan players are all at me, big bronze, 6'2", everyone. I say, that's cool. At least indulge me. And then they've done it before. Celtic, they're a bit nervous, studs are rattling. Bertie starts singing, it's a grand old team to play for. The boys join in. Before they know it, it's a full-blown sing-song. The Italians must have been looking thinking, this is a pub team. They were no pub team. They go a goal down into this defensive masterclass to nail the penalty. But listen to these stats, 44 shots at goal. 6 shots at goal every 2 minutes, 25 in target. Poor Starkey's giving it this. Try to stop him out, but he's beaten twice. Big Tony on the other, his Rocket makes it 1 each. It was 6 minutes to go. Stevie, like the great Negroni, the greatest goal scorer of all time in the UK, had boy for the Garngad, broke Celtic territory. Stevie deflects Boy Murdoch's goal in, shot in. And Celtic, the European Cup is coming home at Glasgow, as Kenny Falkenholm said. Celtic players bought 2 jerseys in Lisbon, one in each half. That's Stevie's, the Lisbon, and Stevie's opponent is a guy called Berneri, Italian centre half. Look at the jersey, Italian, the cashmere silk with the gold star. In the plain green and white band, there's nothing plain about these guys. These guys are, there will never be a group of men loved and revered like the Lisbon Lions. And just to finish this wee bit, because the kids have been very patient, we've reunited the Lisbon Lions half-back line to the far side. And the left boy Murdoch, the boy from Ireland, some vote Bobby the best Celtic player I've ever seen. In the middle, we have John Clark, another legend that gave us 6 decades of service. That's John's cap for the day, Martin Pelly, for Scotland against Brazil in 1966. And then a guest, Billy McGill, the most famous image ever. Billy with the European Cup in Lisbon. If you don't believe the fairy tale, listen to Billy's medal collections of players. 1 European Cup, 9 league titles, 6 league cups, and 7 Scottish Cups. 1, 9, 6, 7. Goosebumps. So I'm going to leave you for a couple of minutes. Thank you for indulging me. We can spend hours here, but I'm conscious with the reruns, we'll get them into the dressing room. So if you get your pictures taken as quickly as you can, we'll get the captains to lead us into the home dressing room and the tour can kick off. Does that sound like a plan? Everyone okay so far? You still hear this one, Charlie Nicholas and
What's that?
All 11 of the Lisbon Lions came to the west of Scotland. Bobby Lennox from Salford, the rest of the town. Ronnie Simpson was born in Glasgow, and his dad was the captain of the Rangers. Ronnie Simpson's dad was the captain of the Rangers, a guy called Jerry Simpson. And yet his son signed for Celtic with him. Yes. Yes, so North Scotland.
What? Yeah, this is a bit poor, but...
Who's your favourite sailor of all time? What? Your favourite sailor of all time? Why, man? Only listening why not have a book written about it. I hope that's a wee bit interesting for you.
It's great.
90 years ago, stayed in Brooklyn. I had a nice visit to Columbus place in Brooklyn. We used to be travelling constantly, travelled up the river and travelled by train, because obviously
Yeah.
air transport at that time was, we sailed for like 9 days on a boat via Ireland to get there in the same bag. Pretty much that was the whole summer time. Imagine that now, they can play about 2 games a week.
Yeah.
Well, I like to tell people, for folks from the USA or Canada, I like to bring in James Cameron, because I think that's a magic anecdote. The guy's life changed, he became a hero because a man died. Lightning bolt.
I can record on this one. I'll take pictures on that one. Are you fine?
The Japanese guest will tour last weekend. His question was, is this the real dress room? I thought, I'm a strange question to ask. I thought it's probably not, because if you think about the modern stadiums, I guess West Ham's big Olympic Stadium and Arsenal at the Emirates, and I've been at Chelsea's, that's a great tour as well. I've not been in the new stadium, I'll walk past it, but I'd imagine it's fabulous. I know it's bigger capacity than us now, so I'm not very happy about it. But what I was going to say is, all these new stadiums, and I guess Bayern Munich, Real Madrid's, the dressing room I'd imagine would be very much bigger than this. So the first thing that strikes folk is how maybe claustrophobic it is. And I guess that's because we're now living with the original, the stadium footprint going all the way back to 1929. When we go outside, I'll explain, the sort of timeline here. But you wouldn't design a dressing room, for example, with a pillar in the middle. It's literally working rounds. So some folk would like to see a brand new main stand here, including me. But the trade-off would be you would lose a certain amount of history, and I don't know. There's a real sense when you come in there. Just think of some of the legends, some of the nights. The night we were facing Barcelona, whatever you can imagine. I like to try and do a wee bit of scene setting. So one thing that strikes you is, I guess, is the size. It's quite small. You're always claustrophobic. Imagine all these athletes in here in a big game, and physios around walking in the room. It must be a crazy place. But the other thing is, look how global the game has become. When I mentioned to somebody, the chap asked Ronnie Simpson, when Celtic won the European Cup in 1967, all 12 men were stripped. John Fallon was a sub-goalkeeper. All 12 men were stripped from the west of Scotland. Only Bobby Lennox came from further than 10 miles from Celtic Park. It's like your local team going to win the European Cup. Compare and contrast now. I know the world's not square, but we literally have, I believe the world's not square, we literally have folk from each corner of the globe in here. It's quite incredible. Korea, Japan, USA, Canada, Australia, Scandinavia, all over the UK, continental Europe. It really is something special. But that must present quite a unique challenge as well. So when the captains lead us in here an hour and a half for a big game, just imagine, Hans Postecoglou has it must be some managerial challenge, because when he pulls the screen down, he's done most of the work up at Leonardstown, the training camp is in the country. That's where the men's team are based. The women's team are based here, they're based in the away dressing room, but the men's team are based in Leonardstown. We rarely see them. But when he comes in here for that hour and a half, he's got to get into the mindset of each of these guys, so that by the time they leave here to go out to get into the game, they only have one thought in mind. Was it Tony Burns got dressed that said, when you pull on that jersey, you don't represent a football club, you represent a people. That's actually right, isn't it? Because what happens in that park when you guys go out there? I'm talking about something that John Thompson done 90 years ago and goals it down the glory scored, almost 100 years ago. You have the opportunity to create history. What a huge responsibility that is. Also, what a huge privilege. Can you just imagine that as a Celtic fan? So you're in here, the captain, Callum McGregor and Joe Hart in the dressing room. That's another story. Joe Hart won everything with Manchester. 75 times cap from England, won everything. A couple of loan deals that maybe don't quite come off for him. Maybe it's a chance to come to Glasgow. I thought, I think a wee bit of gamble, but he takes a chance. Thank goodness, has he not bought into it? I was at Tynecastle with my own kids about this time last year, a bit earlier. It's a vital midweek game, but it's the one that Hitachi scored, the ball was back out for the goalkeeper dive. And we were clinging on a wee bit at the end. I think Hearts might have missed a penalty. And we won 2-1, it's a vital game in the title win. And the players were all up giving it. Big Joe's up giving it that after. I said to my kids, do you think Joe was born in a gang gang? And after a League Cup final a couple of weeks ago, he's giving all that stuff in terms. I'm like, look at that guy, he's done everything in football. And he's celebrating this like his first. And I think when folk get us like that, particularly guys who don't come from our background, we're Celtic sort of knee high, I think that's a wonderful thing. Once Celtic gets you, it never leaves you. We're still talking about Henrik Larsson of the Celtic. Henrik won the Champions League with Barcelona. Played for Feyenoord, Manchester United. It's Henrik Larsson of Celtic. By the way, if you do love Larsson as I do, not in no sense, over in the corner there, unlike Dirty Dancing, we did put Henrik in the corner. Callum's that's for Henrik. He changed. He comes back to Clare Fowler, a testimonial or a charity game. He still insists his own locker. So just look at how does Hans Postecoglou get into the psyche of each of those guys? Argentina, you know, literally everywhere. Denmark, Israel. Everywhere, and we're wee backs at homegrown guys. So who's all? Anybody about 7 or 8 here? Yeah, 7. So can you imagine the Celtic captain now? He's been playing for Celtic since he was your age. He literally has been. And if he sees out this contract, he'll get 25 years of sale. That's a lifetime. That rarely happens. There's no many clubs now. Their players play the kids to their mid-30s. But you know, James Forrest, another guy, you know, watching the line sometimes. What a record these guys have got. They're all following history. Anyway, just imagine you're getting here, you're getting ready, you're getting in the zone. It's a big game here. The family, you can start here, the footsteps above you. That's the family coming in, taking a seat. They're more nervous than you, aren't they? Oh, that's okay tonight, whatever. I'm sure they will. But you're calm and composed, aren't you? Because you're the Celtic captain, you've done it all before. And then a few minutes before you're due to go out, somebody opens the door a wee bit, and the noise comes in, and it's 60,000 maniacs singing "We Never Walk Alone." There were West Ham guys or Chelsea guys in the corner, 3,000 of them singing their harps out. Scotland versus England, couldn't you get any better? And the Celtic fans fight back. Don't you think you just pull that jersey on, just think, I'm a couple of inches tall, my chest out here. There is nobody beating us today. No matter how good we are, has anybody beaten us today at Celtic Park? No. Has anybody beaten us today? No, it's not happening, is it? Anybody beating us today at Celtic Park? Anybody beating us? Thumbs up. Are we winning this game? Look at that. Look at that for it's confidence bordering on arrogance. Is anybody beating us today? Are we winning game? Even Ollie's got his thumb up there. He's got 8 thumbs up there. Anybody beating us today? It's not happening, is it? So, anyway, I think that's my motivational talk. I'm certainly getting my boots on anyway. So captains, are we ready to take on the might of England in the Champions League? Are we ready to enter the arena at Celtic Park? Are we ready to make history? Are we ready? Let's get on. I'm sorry, have you all had your photographs in here? We want a couple of minutes to take some photographs. Is everyone okay? You okay? Ready to get down? Like captains, let's see some leadership. Do you want one? There's no tons of time, so I'm just getting over excited. Footsteps up, Jinky. Let's get down here. That's what you want. You don't want overconfidence. You want a wee bit of nerves. So what? 48 hours time. This will be bouncing, won't it? 48 hours time. This will be bouncing. So we'll get a couple of rows going here if we can. We'll make this as lifelike as we can. So a couple of rows going here. It's fine. You need one. Right?
Yep.
Wait till we're all out here. We are coming back up here if you want to leave your camera or even sleeping. Don't leave the vein. I'm sure I forgot something. We've all been there. Somebody give a wee nod when the last person's out. I'm suspecting not quite yet. You excited? Yeah, absolutely. You're leading if you don't. Are we all out of dressing room? Still something to come? Somebody give a wee nod? Still people coming out? Yep. We're all out, thank you. So this is the same. As I say, in 48 hours, Rangers will be here. Vital league match. 60,000 all Celtic fans. Reasons I won't go into, you'll be well aware of. All Celtic, which I think actually makes it even more intense. There'll be no empty seats. Rangers will come down here at the away dressing room, and the first sight they'll see will be the Celtic captain. So let me see. That's the look. That's the look we're wanting. That's the look. We're invincible. We're invincible at Celtic. Well, let's hope we're invincible. I don't want to count any chickens. So there's only one thing missing. So are we not just a health and safety point of view? There are 3 stairs here, 3 steps to heaven. And when you go to the dugout, if you're taller than me, which is just about everybody looking up here, just watch. There's a wee drop down. Just watch you don't bang your head. No injuries for the big game at the weekend. So there's only one thing missing. The teams are all here. The fans here are all. What's missing to get us down the tunnel? Music is spot on. Give me 2 seconds and I'll do that.
Morning.
Okay, captains. Right on. Yes. Listen to that roar. 60,000 screaming at us.
Silver song of the land. Oh. No, because that's what we're just something.
Sure. We're not coming back down, we're going up to the sports bar. Is that okay? Is there a lot of weight in that? I can help. No, it's fine, boss. It's alright. You've done it. Thank you. Single-handed. Yeah. Show us your legs. Okay,
Is the VIP?
I don't know how I'm going to get it up there.
So welcome to the 4th and final part of the tour. I guess the VIP area or director's box in Old Money. It's also, as I mentioned, down in the dressing room, the oldest surviving part of Celtic Park. It dates back to 1929, so I guess, you know, coming up for a century of history. The rest of the park, as you can see, is very different. So very briefly, this is the second Celtic Park. If you use your imagination for a wee second, about 150 yards behind the standing section of Celtic Park number 1. If you don't know your Glasgow geography, there's a cemetery runs the full length of that stand and butted onto the east boundary wall of Celtic Park number 1. We only played there for 4 years, the same 4 years as Willie Walford was here before he went to West Ham territory down in London. But Celtic became very popular very quickly. Scottish Cup final in our first season. and we really, it only held 2,000 fans, and the landlord got a wee bit greedy because you could see how well Celtic were doing. A combination of those factors forced us to move, and we did move. We moved literally 150, 200 yards to what was basically an old brickyard, an old quarry. The last place in the world to build a football stadium, perhaps. We built it, we did, using volunteer labour, and in the summer of 1892, Celtic played here for the first time. But very, very different. The posh seats where you guys are now would have been over the far corner. So you picture Fulham's Craven Cottage for the English supporters, and Airdrie Broomfield for the Scots, a wee pavilion. All the grounds of those days had those, and that's where the players get changed, that's where the directors watch the game. So you're watching Celtic come out and play Rangers in 1892, you'd be cheering for them coming from that corner. It's quite difficult to imagine. This originally was terracing. In 1899 there was a double-decker stand, and this stand was built in 1929. At the same time, the pavilion was burnt down. The first main stand at Celtic Park, run along James Field Street, it was burnt down in 1904, 2 days after Celtic beat Rangers. I'm sure the two facts are no way connected. I was speaking to my lawyer in the morning. So that burnt down, the pavilion burnt down. Eventually we decided maybe wooden stands on such a great idea, and this lovely grandstand, leather tip-up seats in 1899, all glass panelled, quite incredible for the day. Sadly that was dismantled, and this stand was here, and I've been here ever since. Some say there was a new stand in 1971, well there wasn't. It was a wee boy, I remember come on watching Jimmy McGrory, my hero, opening the new stand, but it wasn't a new stand. What they did is they put seats in the old enclosure, and they put a brand new roof, which is quite spectacular for its time. You can still see the empty of the roof now. It's a big spaceship up in the white, up underneath. The rest of the ground has stayed the same way for decades. So when Celtic beat the cream of Europe under Jock's team, 75 or 80,000 they crammed in here watching Big Billy score against Vojvodina, or Bertie against Fiorentina, or Big Tommy against Benfica. Magical European nights when Celtic really were one of the best sides in Europe, the best sides in the world. I watched it as a wee boy. Maybe I was 10 years too early, because I really appreciate it now. But things go in cycles, don't they? After the tragedies of Heysel and Hillsborough, Celtic had, like the rest of the stadium in Europe, had to become all seated. Celtic Park couldn't really cut it. We were faced with two choices. One was to go to a brand new site, I guess the West Ham have done now, a brand new stadium, what Arsenal have done, the new site, or the Kayleys and Grants wanted to do that in Cambuslang, or back Fergus McCann. Fergus was from Croy, but he made his fortune in Montreal. He sold golfing holidays to Bahamas. How did I miss that gig? But Fergus was Celtic to the core. In 1994 he said, I'll put my money in, Celtic supporters. If you put your money in together, we'll build a brand new 60,000 Celtic Park in our spiritual home. And there was a young married man taking a bank loan for £600 or £700 thinking, can't afford it, we'll never see the money again. Well, both of those were true. But what an emotional investment, because for 25 years, bringing my kids from Jansen's first year in the front row to now all adults with their own families now up here, magically waiting for games like Saturday and for Champions League nights, because don't tell my wife, but these are some of the best nights of your life, aren't they? 125th birthday, we beat Barcelona without our captain, without our star striker. Even Rod was sitting up there bursting into tears at Cameron's Corn. It was so emotional, because this park, magical things happen here. How did we get from old ground to new ground? Well, we had to knock 3 sides down, play for one season at Hampden under Tommy, God rest him, which was awful. Everybody beat us. But the modern Celtic restarted for me in the summer of 1995 when Rod Stewart, Tommy Burns and Fergus McCann walked across, came up in the North Stand against Kevin Keegan's fabulous Newcastle. Where's my Newcastle fan? I've lost him. A Newcastle United fan, he was here earlier, maybe not. Anyway, against that's a wonderful side of Ferdinand and Ginola. Rod Stewart up in the North Stand, the biggest stand in the UK, 26,000, even bigger on the whole end. It's a wee gesture of thanks. Tonight is ours, it's very well, lots of more fun, so the Dyson hoodies. Rod Stewart's a seat for life, and either side of the road, his sons Aidan and Alistair, and I'm fairly certain Rod will be here on Saturday. He tends to come to most of the games in Glasgow, so that's Rod's seat for life for the young lad sitting here. The following year, Billy Connolly's big pal opened the Lisbon line stand against Sport Lisbon, and Billy also was given a seat for life. This lovely young man here is Billy Connolly, so tell us a joke, but keep us clean, because there's adults here, so don't get me sacked. Billy not keeping the best of health, as you probably know, turned 80 recently. How incredible is that? I remember listening to Billy Connolly in 1972, the crucifixion and all that stuff. He's 80, not in the best of health, but what a genius, probably the funniest man I've ever heard. And maybe one for the modern guys, Kevin Bridges. You don't like Kevin Bridges, so Kevin's mum and dad's Andy and Patricia would never walk alone. The sad part of that story is Kevin's dad passed away in January, so a difficult time for the Bridges family, but another funny guy. But for me, with the greatest respect to those, the real VIPs for me are the 59,000 or so, what do you call them, ordinary supporters who make sacrifices, some travel huge distances to come here every second week. Whether it's Ross County or Real Madrid, sort of doesn't matter. There's 60,000 people coming in here. So even during the pandemic, 50-odd thousand people buying season tickets for a game. A season they wouldn't see a match. Is it madness? Or the ultimate passion? I don't know, maybe somewhere on that line. But it's what somebody asked me why you do that. Well, it's what we do. It's what I've always done. And hopefully a couple of weeks ago my wee grandson attended his first game. I was actually a rare treat in hospitality, and I get the photo through. I can't even explain the feeling I felt. My son, with his wee boy, coming to Celtic Park, this big smile, I thought, wow, that takes me back to 1965. I know I don't look it, but I've been coming here for that long. So that's the whole thing about Celtic, and for these other great clubs. It's a rite of passage, isn't it? It's the stories passed down, Andy. Stories passed down for your granddad, your dad. You come as a wee boy, then you see your dad's an old man, then you lose your dad, you take your kids, and now there's the grandkids coming, and generations. In 40 years, people will be talking about that night in Barcelona. There is nothing quite like it, is there? Anyway, I'm very conscious, I'm in therapy time now, I've taken you over. Can I just say, what a lovely, lovely group of folk. You've made this an absolute pleasure. With a few laughs, the kids' behaviour, second to none, credit to the parents. Thank you for being such brilliant captains. And it doesn't work without you guys. It doesn't work with me just telling the stories. It has to be shared, so thank you for doing that. To my guests, a a lovely time in Scotland. A lot of time in Scotland, a safe journey home. My friends from England, all the best for your teams. I know you're all playing one another and whatever. My wife's Manchester United, so I try to stay neutral where England's concerned. But I've got my favourites. We talked about it too, a couple of them in here. My son loves Arsenal, I'll leave that one. So enjoy your time. I hope the next time you're back here is for a big Champions League game and we're packing the stadium out. There's nothing like football for building friendships, is there? There's nothing like it anywhere. So I hope there's a wee part of Celtic in your heart by the time you leave. And for those that are a big part of Celtic in heart, fingers crossed for a big result on Saturday. I can't wait. Hail, hail, the Celts are here!